Welcome to Charting Cryptos, Commodities, and Currencies. We're going to start with our 24-hour-a-day Bitcoin chart. A little different than the Bitcoin ETF in that it's charted 24 hours a day. But in the end, it seems to move very, very similar. Again, the reason that we chart every day, the ETF, is because, of course, you don't have to have an account at one of these crypto indexes, some of which have had some real problems over the last few years. You can simply practice buying and selling an ETF. But we'll look at the Big Daddy, which is this 24-hour-a-day chart. It is down right now 2.41% for the day. Now, those of you who've already listened to our daily reviews or been listening to them throughout the course of the week, just to give you an example, Bitcoin for the day down, and this is on Thursday, 0.73%. Not so, of course, on the 24-hour-a-day chart. What kind of insights can that 24-hour-a-day chart give you when you see, say, what happens tomorrow? You can, of course, see on the 2-day chart, it is above the weekly trend line. You can see, like we've been talking about with Bitcoin, when it comes to the candles, things have, they were roaring up at a higher angle earlier. That has slackened off some. Now, the high that we saw back on December 4 was 44,729. Here we see 43,801, 44,009, and 43.18. So not reaching the high like we saw on the Bitcoin ETF of this prior up move. And again, we'll pay close attention on as we watch this last one. Things continued to percolate up and then bounced. So maybe it's reverting to what we saw before, where Bitcoin pulled up, slid sideways, and then over. Is it getting ready to pull back? I don't know, but we are keeping an eye on that. Ethereum for the day on the 24-hour-a-day chart down 1.58%. Of course, Ethereum, we saw that the prior high was $2,403, and during the course of this week, $2,447. So we have reached a higher high. We had that Doji week last week, but again, Ethereum trying to gain a little bit more energy. You can see that it's almost up to the average volume. Let's see where we are on the volume. See, it's about half, like it is on the ETF for this week when it comes to Bitcoin. But Ethereum's volume, not that. So interesting to look at that divergence there between the two. And what about the this is the Bitwise Top 10 Crypto Index Fund. This is not a 24-hour-a-day chart. This is an ETF. What it does is it's weighted per market share, Bitcoin being the big daddy. And you can see the prior 2 weeks, green doji, then a red doji, then this week, a small little candle, the higher back on the week, high back on the week beginning the 4th of December was $25.09. This week, $24.60. So not making that higher high yet. And again, pay attention, see what you can learn from what goes on with this ETF as it cycles sideways, not reaching the higher high. But it did blow up beautifully once we saw things turn around, a little bit higher than average volume, much higher than average volume that second week, middle October, end of October, and things just shooting up for several weeks. But again, that's slackening off quite a bit lately. Let's look at where we are on some of these ETFs that we've been tracking. Sugarcane hammering down, not so much this week. Actually, for the day, sugarcane pulling up significantly, 4.28% after 3 strongly increasing down weeks, and still a red candle for this week. What about copper? Well, copper just keeps on ratcheting it up, pulling back some for the day today, but you can see how copper's gone down, popped up, gone down, popped up, gone down, popped up. Is it going to keep going higher? We can see where the last time it topped was a little bit higher, And of course, we can go back to other potential highs. But again, volume, not much this week. Again, an off week. Who knows how much industry's just out and out closed for the holiday and, in decreasing demand on copper. Let's look at the United States Gasoline Fund. Now, it had been going down or sideways for many weeks. Last week popped up. This week a doji, and for the day down 2.42%. Very interesting. Day and a half of strong down movements on that half-day chart. We look at where we are in natural gas. Of course, is it bottoming here? Keep an eye on that. If you want to trade nat gas in a practice trade, keep a close eye on where things are. For the day alone, up 3.84%. Is nat gas finding a bottom, getting ready to move up? Don't know if that's true. Could just be digesting losses, but could be getting ready to turn around. Now, lastly, we'll take a look at the United States Oil Fund. Of course, it had really spiked up going into the end of September, and then beginning October, November, into December, moving down now, trying to pop up a little bit, move sideways. We'll see. For today alone, it was down 2.52%. Green spinning top. We'll just see if you're interested in fuel, if you're interested in oil, keep an eye on it and see if it's getting ready to boom. Now, let's move from commodities into currencies. I love currencies. Currencies to me are just fascinating. And of course, when you look at what the euro's been doing over the last 2 weeks, volume didn't help us out a lot here in trying to predict movement, which again, doesn't excite me about jumping into something when I can't find volume backing up price. But we do see, as we had a spinning top back on the 11th, the week beginning the 11th of December, popping up nicely December the 18th, the week beginning then. And of course, this week, beginning on the 26th, popping up. Little pullback today, only 0.37%. But again, euro moving up. What about the British pound? It's trying to move up too. It bottomed out, back in late October, early November. Slowly started catching fire. 2 big, strong weeks, beginning the 20th of November, 27th. Then we had a spinning top, another spinning top in these last 2 weeks, trying to move on up. The high that week beginning December the 11th was 123.02 and 123.23 this week. So we have moved higher. Now, the Japanese yen. Now, what is more helpful with the yen is as things took off, that volume really increased. Didn't see it find its bottom with that volume, with a nice spike in volume like we saw back here. But that didn't signal the bottom. It went down 2 more weeks. But when it took off with that high volume, it has moved up nicely over the last going on 6 weeks, up for the day 0.32%. What about the Swiss franc? Not the French franc. There isn't a French franc anymore, unless you go to like Polynesia. Then they have the other territories, I think is Autres Territoires. They do have still francs, I believe, but not in France itself. But the Swiss do, and the Swiss franc heating up over these last going into 7 weeks. And again, the Swiss don't necessarily like that because it makes their exports much more costly. In fact, you'll watch the Swiss at times devalue their own currency to increase their ability to export. But man, a booming up. And again, you can see where it tried to bottom here. Again, nothing helpful on volume. When it really had started taking off that second week, lots of volume there, but hard to put a lot of what we teach with that change. Now, as we look at the Australian dollar, you can see where things were looking for a bottom here with lots of volume back on the week beginning the 23rd of October, and then turning around with higher than average volume and just moving up. somewhere between the high that week of 64.50 to a high of 67.93. So again, that is something that we can look and see as things move. Lastly, we'll touch on the Canadian dollar. Again, a booming. You can see here where we did reach our low with high volume here, 2 weeks of not doing a lot, and then with just a little bit above average volume, things took off for the last 6 weeks. Again, worst position to get in that week of the turnaround would have been the high of $72 with a high so far of 74.28. So from 72 to 74. Now, that is where we are on our currencies. That wraps up Charting Cryptos, Commodities, and Currencies. Hope that you enjoyed this. We always love to hear from you. If you have questions, problems, concerns, other things you'd like us to look at for you, particular ETFs that you might be interested in, whether they're commodity ETFs, they're currency ETFs, you might be interested in some of the other cryptocurrencies. Just let us know what you think, what you need, what you're not understanding, what you'd like to hear more of. We always love to hear from you. God bless, my friends. All the best from the whole team at Charting Wealth World Headquarters.